Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our 2018 Respondents E-Conference. I am Angelica Rundari, and I work for Solar One. And just to give you some background, Solar One is a nonprofit whose mission is to provide education and resources that create more sustainable and resilient urban environments. In 2014, we launched the Here Comes Solar program to stimulate new solar adoption in high demand and high barrier subsectors in New York City's residential solar market by identifying and mitigating specific barriers across a range of common underserved property types. So today, the initiative is helping to cultivate new scalable forms of urban solar deployment through new collaborations and the creative combination of innovative design, policy, and financing solutions. The Resilient Solar program that I work on, along with my colleague Derek Nelson, who you'll hear from later today, focuses specifically on deploying resilient solar energy systems that will be a resilient asset for when the power goes down. So there's going to be solar, there's going to be a battery backup system. These systems will operate in times of emergencies. And before we get started with the actual content of the RFQ, we have some of our colleagues from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery who are going to talk to you about the diversity and civil rights requirements as well as the wage requirements. So first we're going to have Dinora from the Diversity and Civil Rights Department speak. Nora, you can go whenever you're ready.
Okay. Some programs, such as the CPPG, federal and regulations, Section 3 being the federal law, all new employees hired, Section 3 residents. If no hiring, there's and for the state authority and what business enterprises is 30% of the contract value. In case,
Nora, we're having a hard time hearing you. Do you think you can maybe call back in? I think the connection is bad.
Okay.
Thank you. Just gonna give Denora a second to get back on the line. Hopefully there'll be a better connection so everybody can hear. And again, Denora is going over the diversity and civil rights requirements for this program. There are specific minority and women-owned business as well as Section 3 requirements that are part of this. And as you may have noticed in the RFQ, there are some documentation templates on how to create plans to do outreach to these types of businesses to work on these projects with you. While we wait for Denora, we also have Achilles from the Wage Compliance Unit. Do you wanna go ahead and speak, Achilles?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Achilles. I'm with the Wage Compliance Unit over at GOSER. As you all are probably already aware, this project is subject to prevailing wage, which means that all your on-site construction workers must be paid at minimum the prevailing wage rate associated with the trade that they are performing on-site. The trades and rates can be found within the bid package. The thing that's kind of unique about this project to consider is that this project is subject to both federal and state prevailing wages. So contractors are expected to pick the higher of the two wages for the trades that they are selecting. And myself and my team are available to help contractors pick the right trade for whatever, your workers are doing on site, and kind of help you guys find the right rates and stuff like that. These prevailing wage provisions need to be trickled down into all your subcontracts. All right. Along with any prevailing wage job, you're going to need to submit certified payroll reports on a weekly basis. These certified payroll reports basically show the hours, the trades, and rates associated with each one of your on-site workers each week. These reports are going to be submitted through an online-based system called the Elation system. And again, my team is available to walk everybody through, the prime and subcontractors through that process, so we can train you guys to, fill out certified payrolls properly, show you how to use the system right, help you classify people into the proper trades, help you pick what rates to pay different guys. Our team is a very hands-on team, so whenever there's any issue with your certified payrolls, we reach out directly to either you or your subcontractors and get it corrected as quickly as possible. On this project, you can also utilize apprentices. The only thing we need is a certificate showing that they're in a bona fide apprenticeship program approved by the Department of Labor. Lastly, if you guys are looking at the wage schedule and you cannot locate a particular trade that you need to price out the job, you can reach out to me, and I can file a conformance request to the DOL to add any trade you guys want, and we can propose a wage to be paid to that trade. But ultimately, DOL will come back and let us know what the appropriate rate is for whatever the scope of work would be of that particular trade and individuals. And that's basically the general rundown of the prevailing wage requirements. Does anybody have any questions?
And if you have a question, please type it into the chat box, and we'll convey it to Achilles right now. And this applies to contracts if you are awarded an RFP. So this process right now is just to qualify you to bid on future RFPs, which would then lead into contracts. So it's not something you have to worry about for this specific response specifically, but it would be something that you need to take into account in future solicitations.
And just another thing for everybody to know is that my team, we also will come out on site, we'll interview employees, we send out letters to employees, and this is kind of our way of protecting both the employer and the employees to make sure everybody's doing, what they need to be doing to remain compliant. And, if we find any errors, we just work with the contractors to get it corrected. So we're definitely a resource for you guys and your subcontractors, to help stay compliant with the prevailing wage rules on these projects. So, and again, if anybody thinks of any questions later, definitely shoot it out to Solar One, and then they can forward it to me, and we can answer stuff, even if you think of anything later.
Great, thank you, Achilles.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, we're going to give Janora another second, but something that I failed to introduce earlier is that this program is really a partnership with the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, which is why you will be hearing from them. We work very closely with them to select the sites and implement these projects. So all of our projects are tied to their office. And my colleague Derek will get into that a little bit more as he goes over our program objectives. Derek, actually, why don't you go ahead and start with that, and when Janora gets back on, we will unmute her.
Sure. Hey everybody, my name is Derek Nelson, also here at Solar One. Should we just move along the slides? All right, so now to just quickly review the program and what we're trying to achieve with it in partnership with the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. So Solar One has received funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, their Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program to implement solar and storage projects under a program known as the Solar Power and Battery Backup Program for Community Facilities. Sorry, I know that's a mouthful. Funding will be delivered through the New York Rising Community Reconstruction Program of the New York State Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, also known as GOSER. So during this program, we at Solar One will provide funding for 100% of the cost, less any benefits already received, for viable solar plus storage projects on these community facilities, which we are targeting in high-risk areas. The goal being to increase resilience against future power outages. Key goals in this project include installing these grid-connected solar energy systems and backup power systems with energy storage attached. The solar systems will function independently of the energy storage systems, producing solar energy, reducing the building's net consumption under normal conditions. During blackouts, the backup system will automatically island from the grid, and the PV will charge the storage system. And it's really important in this program that the energy storage systems provide power only during power outages. That's really the focus of this program, is providing resilient power, and therefore we want to make sure that the batteries are fully charged at all times, or as close to it as possible. We do permit a certain amount of cycling just to maintain battery health under normal conditions. But outside of that, these batteries are not to be used for demand response, demand charge reduction, price arbitrage, anything like that. For most of our sites, the energy storage systems will need to be sited outdoors due to permitting constraints in New York. There may be one or two exceptions to that, depending on the details of the given site. And fully integrated monitoring systems will be really important to confirm that the systems are operating safely. I think moving on to the next slide. So we at Solar One are doing a lot of pre-development work to make sure that this whole process goes as smoothly as possible, and to make sure that the sites we find are really going to be a good fit for the program, hopefully making it as easy as possible for selected vendors to get the projects built. So with that in mind, we really developed close relationships with FDNY and the Department of Buildings, DOB, specifically their Office of Technical Certification and Research. And we're working closely with both of them as they start to develop more streamlined rules for permitting lithium-ion battery installations in the city. And in the meantime, we just want to make sure that the sites that we've chosen here, along with GOSER, are a good fit for lithium-ion installations. Again, there will be some exceptions, but for the most part, we're really aiming to install cutting-edge lithium-ion batteries at these sites. So we've reviewed details of the sites with FDNY and DOB to make sure that they're on board with our concept designs. So for more about that and the process leading up to those concept designs, once we target a facility, it looks like it might be a good site for the program. We meet with the facility staff to go over the objectives of the program, the technical elements of the solar and battery systems, financial and operational implications of owning an asset like this for an extended period. You know, we're targeting for 15 to 20 years operational life at least. And also make sure that the facility staff understand the kind of asset this will be to the community during emergencies, and make sure that they're on board with the responsibility that comes with that. We also have a technical team that conducts a thorough site survey, site assessment, to make sure that the solar and battery backup systems can be installed safely, assessing the site's ability to conform with current codes, laws, and standards, and finally design a really detailed critical load to make sure that we know exactly what size PV system and battery system we'll need to meet the resilient power objectives on site. Again, that's something that will vary site by site. In a few cases that may require powering the entire facility, but for the most part, we're really looking to target the most essential loads, such as lighting, plug loads, maybe some amount of heating or cooling, etc. For each site, we've also conducted an analysis of their utility energy consumption to try to estimate the savings that they'll enjoy from the solar system that will be installed under the program. Finally, we conduct structural assessment using a New York City-based registered architect. They go to each site to verify the structural viability of the building, and make sure that it can handle the solar and battery concept design that we create for the site. This RA has extensive experience working as a consultant and advisor on solar projects in the area, and as part of his research, he has consulted with a professional engineer to confirm the results of the preliminary analysis. And then finally, we're also conducting environmental testing with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection to certify the presence or absence of asbestos-containing materials and lead-based paint on site. So essentially, we really do a lot of valuable prep work for each site to make sure that the proposals we get are as low cost as possible, and just to make sure that they'll be a good fit for the program. So hopefully our concept designs will be really helpful to all the vendors when they consider whether to bid. And I think that's about it.
Great. So we have Denora now, so I'm going to unmute her so she can chat. So if you have questions throughout this presentation, please type them into the chat box to us, and we'll get to them at the end. And if you have other questions come up afterwards, you're welcome to send them to us and we'll respond to everybody with the answers to the questions. Denora, we're ready for you.
Okay, great. Can you hear me now?
Sounds great.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So also recipients of HUD-funded programs are subject to federal and state requirements. The federal is the Section 3 requirement, which calls for 30% of all new hires should be Section 3 residents. If no hiring occurs, then it's 10% of the total contract value should go towards Section 3 businesses. For the federal piece is the minority and women-owned business enterprises. 30% of the contract value should go towards MWBEs, with 15% going towards women-owned businesses and 15% going towards minority-owned businesses. The vendor is responsible for documenting all good faith efforts as well as all greatest extent feasible efforts in order to comply with the requirements. And DCR, which is my Department of Diversity and Civil Rights, will work very closely with the winning bidder to help them comply with these regulations and requirements. And that's pretty much it for me.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, I also want to add that an MWBE can also be a Section 3. If that occurs, the vendor gets credit for both with one company, with one entity.
Great, thank you so much, Nora.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the RFQ a little bit more, but before we do that, I think it's appropriate for us to talk about the RFPs. We're going to have RFPs for multiple sites. So we actually have an RFP out right now that has 4 sites in it. There will be forthcoming RFPs in the upcoming months, so we'll have a few more by the end of this year. Each RFP will have multiple sites that are, again, looking to do solar plus storage. Storage will only be used for backup. And in order to submit a proposal in one of these RFPs, you have to be a qualified vendor. We already have a list of qualified vendors who participated in our RFQ last year. We have 10 vendors on that list right now, and this RFQ will open that list up, and we hope to qualify some of you to participate in upcoming RFPs as well. The next RFP won't be released until after this RFQ process has been completed, so you'll have all that qualify will have a really quick opportunity to start working with us on these projects if desired. I also want to emphasize that all of our RFPs are done through competitive procurement, and they're going to be awarded, each contract will be awarded to the lowest technically responsive and responsible bidder, given that there's a acceptable M/WBE utilization plan, insurance and bonding requirements can be met, and the minimum qualifications of the respondent are met, and those minimum qualifications are outlined in section 4.1 of the RFQ. And now going into the schedule a little bit, as I said, we have an RFP out right now. That RFP will be receiving responses for that in the next 2 weeks. You guys have just under 3 weeks to submit responses, just over 3 weeks, sorry, to submit responses to this RFQ. The deadline to submit questions is May 28th, and all questions must be submitted in writing to me at angelica@solar1.org by 5 p.m. on that day. We'll issue written responses to those questions by May 30th. Those will go to all vendors who've expressed interest in participating in this RFQ, as well as be posted on our website. The deadline to submit responses is June 4th, and it's you have to pay attention to how responses must be submitted. In that, we have an online application that you have to complete. So you should make sure you go through that ahead of time to know that you have all of the information ready if you're as June 4th approaches. There's a part of the application that requires a submission through New York State for your vendor responsibility questionnaire, and that can take some time. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't already through the RFQ document, to ensure that there are no delays and you're able to get your application in by June 4th. The application is posted on our website and won't be there any later than June 4th. So we went into a few of these things already. One thing I want to highlight is that all of these projects are subject to bonding. So when you submit a proposal for an RFP, you will have to supply a bid bond. And the bid bond will be 5% of the amount that you are proposing it would cost to implement the system for that site. So if there are 4 sites in an RFP, you will have to submit 4 bid bonds with that RFP. Bidders whose proposals are not accepted will have their bonds returned to them. The successful bidder will then have to also procure payment and performance bonds for each site. So it's very important that you are able to be bonded in order to participate in this. Nora went over the civil rights and diversity goals. I think Achilles went into the reporting a little bit, but just to emphasize that there are reporting requirements associated with this contract, and it's done through Elation Systems, and they've been really great at providing training on this, and we use it ourselves at SolarOne for our reporting, so we're happy to help in assisting whoever is awarded a contract for that. The vendor responsibility questionnaire is the information that needs to be submitted to New York State, and this really goes into the financials of your company, and this is how we are able to ensure that you guys are going to be around and able to implement these systems and also warranty these systems for years to come. So that's a very important part of this process. And again, Achilles went over the prevailing wage requirements for the RFPs if you were to be awarded one of them. And now we get into our digital application. So this is what the first page of the application looks like. Whenever you see one of these gray boxes, you're going to sign it with your mouse. You just hold your mouse down, the left click button. I guess I don't have one of those mouses. So I don't know exactly which button it is, but you do that to sign, and there's a bunch of places where you're going to have to sign. I thought it'd be helpful for us to actually explore this website a little bit, so I'm going to pull that up just to make sure that everybody's clear on how to do this application. So right now you should be seeing our web interface for our digital application. We came up with this digital application as a way to streamline the process. We received really great, but also really long submissions for our RFQ last year that didn't always have the information that we were looking for. So by following this application, you'll be able to submit everything that we're looking for and not have to do any more work. So again, you sign it. And this part is important because whatever field you check here will determine what information you submit. So we are looking for vendors to submit qualifications as for solar only, for energy storage only, or for solar and storage together. So storage vendors should click ESS, and that will populate fields later on that are specific to ESS only. If you don't have any experience in doing energy storage and you only know how to do solar, you should click on PV, and that will display PV fields only. If you have experience doing both, please select PV plus ESS. We're going to assume that some of you are PV plus ESS vendors right now and just go through this a little bit. This, another thing to note in this application is that it's structured so that you can cycle through the entire thing and see what all of the asks are ahead of time without needing to complete it at once. And there's also this save and resume option where they'll send you a unique link. FormStack will send you a unique link so you can pick up on the application later on if it's too much to complete in one sitting. So the executives, and another thing to note is that all of these fields are really highlighted in the RFQ document itself in section 5 under requirements. So we've outlined the things there. This shouldn't go much, if at all, beyond what's outlined in the RFQ. So in the executive summary, we're really looking for a high-level description of what you guys do. All required fields have a yellow star next to them, like this. Some fields, when you click on them, will populate others. So like if you say you're a certified minority-owned business, we would need documentation, and that file will, that field will populate. If you don't select that, it won't populate anything. And that's the same for a lot of the other fields that are there. With staffing and key personnel, we're really looking for the people, not necessarily everybody in your company, but the people who would be really working on these projects with us. So keep that in mind when completing this section. And the RFQ document itself goes more into the requirements for the solar plus storage program manager and project manager, which are roles that are specific for working on this RFP, or working on RFPs. Again, this is more just broad information that where we're trying to get to know you a little bit better. There might be some more fun questions in here, like how do your employees commute? Hopefully some of you are able to take the ferry. We're interested in seeing how you do more sustainability things in your communities. Like at Solar One, we try to, what do we do, Derek? We compost, we recycle, but beyond that, we try to go into the community and actually help them have access to affordable energy and things like that. So we're really looking to see what you guys do outside of your normal business operations to make an impact here. But again, not a required field, but we'd love to get to know you some more, and that's what that's aimed at. The experience section is really a part of how we're going to see your capabilities in working on these projects. We're really excited to see so many companies that are working in New York City, and that's why we're looking for so much information as it pertains to there. Please notice that we have noted that we only want you to select, if you've worked in New York City, only select boroughs where you've deployed 3 or more projects. So if you've only deployed 1 project in Manhattan, you shouldn't select Manhattan as a neighborhood that you've worked in. We're working in a very tricky, dense urban environment with very specific regulatory barriers, and this is where we want to see how you've addressed that. And this relationships section is also aimed at seeing that. We want to determining that. We want to learn about how you guys operate. Are you mostly focused on doing everything in-house? Do you have subcontractors? If you have subcontractors, are they maybe firms? Are they other subcontractors that other vendors might use? So we're trying to see how experienced you are in the overall process and how that relates to everybody else. Solar capacity is pretty straightforward. A lot of these fields are similar to something that you would complete for a NYSERDA application. We're really looking for your experience within the past 3 years. So if you select 3, it will populate other fields where you would give how many projects you've deployed and the size of the projects you've deployed. So just pay attention to this section here and you'll see that other fields will populate. So say you did 3 projects in 2015, it will ask you for the total amount of kilowatts that you deployed in 2015. And we're just trying to get a sense of how your business has been trending in scaling your operations upwards or downwards and see what you're trying to focus on more. This solar construction experience section is also very essential because in our program, we're going to be working with many different types of buildings that have many unique factors associated with them. So while a lot of solar energy installations are done on pitched roofs, a lot of our rooftops in New York City are not pitched. A lot of them are small with lots of skylights or hatches or other equipment. So being able to elevate systems so that they can get around that is very important, as well as thinking about siding for other types of equipment that would go along with these systems. So this doesn't talk about energy storage yet, but also how can you maximize solar space with storage space. Energy storage capacity is pretty much the equivalent of the PV capacity. We know that there are a tremendous number of energy storage projects that have been deployed in New York City, especially within the past 3 years. But if you have worked on any, we are looking for that data so we can see how capable you are. If you haven't deployed them in New York City and you've deployed them in New York State or even other places, we also are looking for that information, as energy storage anywhere is valuable. And in this section, we're looking to see what types of technology you use with your energy storage. So I know there are a lot of VRLA installations in New York City. We're really excited to see the lithium-ion market opening up, and know that it's a tremendously hard market for flow batteries or other large energy storage applications here. But we want to see what you guys have done and are looking really for innovative solutions in RFPs in order to do these battery backup projects. The latter part of this application really goes into energy storage specifically, and a lot of the information that you supply here is also information that you could you could copy and paste into your RFQ response. So we're looking to see how you control energy storage, how it's maintained safely, how you respond to a thermal event or something that's a concern in New York City. And we're also looking for how you calculate your cost methodology. We know that we have a very, again, difficult regulatory environment, and we know that plays a big factor into deploying these systems, but we want to see how you come about calculating that. We don't need specific numbers, but we want to know how you think about that when you're siting and costing energy storage. Almost done. So this section is mostly aimed at your experience with city agencies, and a lot of this section is more relevant for our work at Here Comes Solar more broadly. So if you qualify in this RFQ, you can also bid on broader Here Comes Solar RFPs. Those RFPs will be for solar only, but they'll be for mostly larger multifamily affordable housing buildings or market rate buildings that are doing bigger installations. A lot of these will need variances. Some of them will be in historic districts. So this section here is trying to see what your capabilities are in that respect. Next section is probably the most important section in the RFQ, as we learn about your relevant project examples and references. So choose carefully when giving us these examples. We want you to pick a example and reference that is able to communicate with us. So as a part of this, you're going to have to provide the email and phone number for a representative from that project, and we are going to be getting in contact with them to talk about their experience in your implementing these projects. So please supply somebody who we can actually get in touch with. And besides that, we're just looking for some more technical information about the project, project start date, when it ended. If you select solar plus storage, it will ask you a few more questions, like what is the purpose of the energy storage system, purpose of the solar energy system. We know it's most likely it's a behind the meter, net metered situation, or maybe it's community solar. There are many options now, but just trying to get more specific information, and the more specific information will be populated as you select the different fields. And the one thing to note here is we're looking for 3 specific photos, 2 specific photos and 1 design. So this section here, we're asking for the final design of the system. This could be 1 page of your final plan set that would show either the PV or the storage, or the PV and storage together. We don't need the full plan set or anything like that. And if the project has been completed, we'd love to see a picture of the solar energy system or the energy storage system, whichever one it is. So there's 3 of these projects that are required. Once you get to those 3, you get to the compliance and confirmations. A part of the application is uploading your standard contracts and your standard O&M contract. Also, as a part of this, every solicitation must have a positive affirmation of the Iran Divestment Act, and that there's an example of that in the RFQ document, and it's also outlined here what you need to say. You need to upload that here as well. The next few things you can are aimed at are parts of things you would have to participate in with the RFP. So here you are just signing. I'm not sure why the field is so small right now, but you're signing to say that you will supply a MEB-BB plan, you will supply a Section 3 utilization plan, you will use zolation systems, you agree to maintain the minimum insurance requirements, you are aware of the bonding requirements, all of the things that are required and tied to the federal funding of this project. The last page is the completed vendor responsibility questionnaire. Once you complete it, there's a section where you have to have it notarized. That, along with a copy of the completed questionnaire, must be uploaded. And we also need an uploaded copy of your certificate of good standing with the New York's Department of State. And that should be it. Once you finish, whoever submitted this will have to put in their name and sign, and then you will be done. And that's it. If you have any questions as you're going through the application, if something's not working or the signature field is still showing up like this, it's not supposed to, you can email myself or Derek. Our emails are quick linked at the bottom of this page, so you don't have to search your inbox for us, and we'll be happy to help. And that's it for the application. So now we'll take some questions. So please send them over to us, and we will answer them. Okay. So our first question is the average storage system size. That the storage system size is going to vary based on facilities. Most of the facilities we're providing backup power only. So we're going to, well, I mean, all of the facilities we're going to be providing backup power only, but for some of them, we are only going to be powering a few critical circuits. Most of the time, these circuits, as Derek noted earlier, are going to be for lighting and plug loads, maybe some heating and cooling, some refrigeration when it's there, but it's really aimed at powering the facility for a certain amount of hours during the day, during the emergency when the power is out. So they're going to range anywhere from 20 kWh to 150 kWh, depending on the site. And we batched RFPs, the sites in the RFP together so that you might have a range of different system sizes in each RFP. For example, the RFP that we have right now, the system sizes range from, I think, 45 kWh to 90 kWh. And each system size is different for each of the 4 sites in that RFP. And on just another note on the PV side of that, the PV systems are going to range from anywhere from 10 kW to 50 kW. Again, depending on the size of the building. For sites where they're more space constrained on the roof and you're not able to get a large enough PV system on there to fully charged energy storage system, you can oversize the energy storage system. So if they need, let's say 75 kWh, but they need a 25 kW PV system to charge it, but they can't fit 25 kW on the roof, you can go up to, like, let's say 90 kWh for your energy storage system in order to meet that buffer and for them to be able to have power. Next question is, do we have to be bonded as a requirement to win a bid, or can we get bonded once we win the RFP? So bonds are required in order to submit a proposal to the RFP, so you would have to be able to procure a bid bond in order to submit a proposal. So in a sense, you will need to be bonded. The bonds will be between the yourself as the contractor and Solar One. So there are definitely bonding requirements in sequence with the RFP. The next question is there a public list of vendors that are already qualified under Solar One? The current list of qualified vendors is available on our website, solarone.org/resilientsolar. And another thing to note on that is that vendors on that list may partner with each other in submitting RFPs. And you guys are welcome to partner with these vendors once qualified as well. So we have three sub-lists within the list. There's a list of vendors who are able to do solar plus storage. They can submit a bid independently of any other vendor. And then there are also vendors who are qualified to do solar only or storage only. Those vendors must partner either with each other or with a vendor that can supply solar plus storage in order to submit a proposal. So if you're qualified as solar only now, you can partner either with a newly qualified vendor or someone who's already on the list. The list will be combined once we evaluate the new cohort of applications.
And one other just really quick note about energy storage system sizes. So Angelica was talking about the range in kWh sizes, which was 20 to 150 kWh per site. Another thing to note, this might be obvious given the kinds of loads that we're planning to power and the kind of program this is, but at each of our sites, the limiting factor is going to be kWh much more than kW power of a given battery system. So you really have a lot of leeway in designing the systems in terms of just the power rating for a battery. So yeah, because the loads are for the most part, and you'll get far more details in a given RFP on each site and what the critical loads look like, but most of them are pretty consistent, non-peaky, low power loads extended over the course of a full operational day. So high powered systems are not going to be necessary for the most part.
Okay, we don't have any more questions on our platform here. If you think of something later on, please email me. And if you need any help with the application or have any concerns, also please email me. We look forward to working with all of you, and thanks again for joining us this afternoon. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.